You're listening to Estrogen Dropouts.
Today we have a special guest. We have Nicole Andrews. She's a registered dietitian and oncology nutrition specialist who helps cancer survivors cut through overwhelming online nutrition advice and focus on what truly supports recovery and long-term health. She is known as the oncology dietitian, and she has worked with over 1,000 cancer survivors, helping them rebuild trust with food, reduce fear around what to eat, and feel confident nourishing their bodies after treatment. 80% of her clients go on to receive clear scans, and 100% say that they feel supported and clear about the nutrition after their first session. So, welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about cancer and nutrition.
Yeah, so I found you on TikTok because you had a video that went viral. And I sent it. So, Erin has some background in functional health. She's yoga. She's also a breast cancer survivor. And I
Mhm.
saw your TikTok go viral where you're saying you don't have to buy organic food and you can drink Diet Coke, which I have a Pepsi Zero right here. And
I
I
love
was so
that.
excited because I really thought I have been buying organic for years, and I've been shaming myself for drinking soda. So I sent it to Erin. I'm like, "Oh my god, is this true?" And she's like, "We've got to have her
Mm.
on the show." So why don't you kick us off with some of these crazy nutrition myths that we hear about what causes cancer and what actually does, and what do people believe? Tell me about the myths.
Yeah, so there's a lot of myths out there. You can even argue when it comes to like things that cause cancer, they talk about the wrong thing so much and not actually the right thing. So everything I share and teach is evidence-based. So what that means is it's supported by strong human data. They've done trials for decades. They've looked at the safety of these foods. They do not increase cancer risk. But influencers or people wanting to, fear monger you and pull you in are going to share the wrong information. So let's start with the two that you just mentioned. So diet sodas do not increase risk of cancer. And in fact, they can maybe even possibly help to reduce risk indirectly by helping people consume less calories, lose weight, lower their body fat tissue. Because we know that lowering your body fat tissue reduces risk of 13 different cancers. That's supported by the World Cancer Research Fund. That's clear. And some people who maybe are having a lot of sugary beverages, which is also not recommended because that can increase, your weight, which will increase cancer risk. If you swapped these diet sodas, Pepsi Zero, I love Pepsi Zero, zero sugar diet sodas, you're now having less calories, you're now losing your weight. So the ingredients within these diet sodas do not increase cancer risk. Like, for example, aspartame's been, studied for well over 4 decades. They continue to reaffirm the daily intake of these artificial sweeteners or the ones that are in diet sodas. They're completely safe and they're also not spiking blood sugars. People will say that as well. Diet sodas are a great choice. They do not increase cancer risk. It's just so great because there's 0 calories and they have flavor and they have those sweeteners in there that have, been studied and shown to be safe in humans. And I think that's really important is a lot of the myths that circulate or that you might find and hear on TikTok when they're really scaring you with food. They're using weak data, small studies, animal studies, lab studies. That is not the same as, strong human data studies. The other one that you just mentioned was about organics. You do not have to buy organics. And I'm going to be so bold to say it's just a marketing scam because conventional produce is using pesticides, but so are organics. And then people will argue, well, it's different farming methods. This is superior over here. It's actually not. It comes down to the dose. So everything is a chemical, everything, even a peach, it's made up of all these, right? It really comes down to the dose and the safety at that dose. So whether you're using, the pesticides for the organic farming or the pesticides for conventional, let's look at the dose and the safety, and they're both safe. Organic strawberry and a conventional strawberry are both going to reduce cancer risk. They're going to have the same basically the same nutrition information, the same fiber, the same antioxidants, the same phytochemicals, which reduces cancer risk. You don't need to pay $8 for a thing of blueberries that are organic, pay the $4, or even get frozen blueberries for even cheaper. You are getting the same benefit to reduce cancer risk. It's just marketing. It's a different way to farm, but it's not better, it's not nutrient superior, and it's not more protective of cancer. I want you having more fruits and veggies. In fact, I'd have clients who would skip out on blueberries or strawberries because they couldn't find organic. So they just skip out. And that actually is harming you when it comes to reducing cancer risk. I want you to have the conventional banana or oranges over nothing. But again, like I just wouldn't even, unless it's the only option, if the only option for you to have fruit that day is organic, okay, buy it. But you are paying more and it's not better than just conventional.
So in my mind, it was like I'm imagining that and I don't know that anyone's ever said this, or maybe they have, but I'm thinking that organic means like healthier soil without chemicals in the soil. And I did not think that organic fruits and vegetables use pesticides.
They
I thought they
do.
didn't. So I was
Absolutely
thinking I
do.
was going
Different
pesticide free.
pesticides, different herbicides, maybe than conventional farming, but also there is the chance of runoff from conventional farming going into organic farming. So you're still getting exposed to the chemicals, whether you are buying organic or just conventional produce.
Yeah, they could have I think it's like a certain percentage of like exposure to conventional pesticides will still make it approved for organic. But I think the most important part is both of these are safe, whether it's organic pesticides or conventional. It's truly just comes down to the marketing. People feel like it's better or safer if they buy organic. And everybody talks like that too. So it makes sense that everyone would feel that way. But when you look at the food science, when you look at actually what's going on, just buy conventional and save your money because it's the same thing.
Well, I love how you mentioned about fear mongering because that's my biggest gripe with the social media wellness influencers is they're always, fear mongering something, whether it's,
Mhm.
organic, non-organic, diet soda, whatever it is. Somebody, and I usually tell clients that I have worked with in my health coaching is, you look at like the message and then obviously they're selling you something, right? I mean, so like they're probably trying to sell you their protein drink or their greens product or whatever. And I think that when speaking about fear mongering is that there is so much fear out there. And Elizabeth mentioned that I was a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed, I'll be 12 years this year. I was diagnosed early at 44. And I had been diagnosed with MS at age 30, got really into the fear mongering. Everything was, like I had to eat all organic, no sugar, just super clean. And when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, a yoga teacher, a friend of mine who I consider kind of like my teacher, she said, sometimes it's not what you're eating, it's the intention that you're eating it with. And I ate healthy, but she's like, you're eating to stave off illness. You're not eating for fuel or wellness. And so I think that's an important thing that, your mindset does play a role in it. And so for women, we mainly appeal to women 40s to 50s. Let's say for those women that want to reduce their cancer risk, what do you say actually matters when it comes to nutrition and lifestyle that will help us basically stay cancer free or be cancer free?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot more simple than a lot of women are being told. I do also work with so many different clients within that age range, whether they're during cancer treatment or post cancer treatment. And they have that same question: hey, what actually matters? There's so much information out there. So, first off, the only two foods that increase cancer risk are going to be processed meats, which increase risk of colon cancer, and then alcohol, which increases risk of 7 different cancers: mouth, throat, esophageal, breast cancer, colon cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer. Okay. And that's it. All the other foods are not actually increasing cancer risk with any consumption. Okay. So that's important to note first is, oh, okay, there's only two foods. So let's start there. Are we removing or limit or lowering our alcohol? And can we swap out some fresh meats, some different types of things for those processed meats? So we really want to start there with the foods. And I know everyone's thinking it's the seed oils, it's the conventional, it's the gluten, it's the sugar. It's not. Those foods are fine. We got to think about kind of like what you mentioned, Erin, about our bodies need certain things, the three macronutrients: carbs, protein, and fat. So we just need those at every meal and we need those throughout the day. Carbs is within that group. So there's a lot of talk about low carb all the time. Low carb, keto, carnivore. I mean, it is a thing that's out there. And yeah, okay, if you're eating a lot of donuts, which are carbs, and then you eat less donuts, that's going to benefit you for your weight loss or how you feel. So there's some truth to around, hey, if we're over consuming certain foods and we consume less of them, we're going to feel better. But taking out carbs is not the solution. 50% of your caloric intake really should come from carbs because it energizes you for workouts. It supports your brain health. A lot of cancer survivors are dealing with brain fog. You want to have glucose. Okay. So when it comes to foods, it's alcohol and processed meats. The other thing that really can benefit women is the exercise. Some cancers can even be reduced, by 40 to 50% for reducing risk of recurrence. Breast cancer is one of those. When you exercise, 150 minutes of moderate physical activity a week.
Oh.
That's really where we want to start. Yeah. Are we moving? Are we walking? Are we exercising? And they may be like, no, I'm not. And you can get rid of all the fear mongering about all these things online and just focus on that right there and start building. With goal setting, and this is what I do with my clients, is that we start small and we build. So if you're 0 minutes of exercise, don't go to 150. Let's go to
Right.
20, 30, right? And then we'll build, and you're going to get there. But instead of scrolling on the phone and listening to very scary content, let's just make sure we're getting that 150 minutes. And then the last thing would be, there's a lot of different things, but another thing would be is to stop supplementing. Don't do supplements. There's a lot of supplements, powders, things like that. We want to focus on the whole foods, the fiber, getting more plant foods. We want to focus on reducing alcohol. We want to focus on moving. So the supplements and the powders, let's take a pause from those. And even certain high dose supplements can increase cancer risk. They become free radicals. So unless your doctor's prescribing it, which is totally fine.
Oh my
your
God, I
doctor
saw a video you did about
Yeah.
that, and it was such a mind fuck for me because I'm like, I buy all kinds of random supplements.
I'm the
I know.
queen as well. And
I was like, what am I
Yeah. So yeah, you girlies don't have to do that. And nobody really does, unless it's like your doctor. Like, for example, a lot of cancer survivors, women especially, they'll need to supplement with calcium and vitamin D. No problem. That is no problem. Or maybe their iron is low, they're during cancer treatment, their doctor prescribes that. That's fine. The key thing is they're monitoring it. They see the labs. They see you're low in vitamin D. They see, that you're having vitamin D supplementation is going up and now within normal range. And now you have more energy because your vitamin D is in a normal level. That's different. But when you're like, hey, I'm going to do this supplement and this screen and this powder, and you don't even know why you're having it, and you just have a bunch of them, that's where the issues come up. I've had clients, they were hospitalized for too high levels of vitamin B. Their liver was out of whack because they were on a turmeric supplement. They stopped the turmeric supplement and boom, their ALT, AST was normal. So we are not supposed to be running around supplementing. And a lot of just influencers, people make it that, hey, you will reduce cancer risk if you do a turmeric supplement. But that's actually not the facts. It's just lab studies. And you just need to have like a turmeric, spice in your meal or turmeric latte, not the pill form. So removing those pills is another thing you could do to help you reduce cancer risk and focus on food.
well, also supplements aren't regulated by the FDA, so you don't absolutely 100% know what you're taking anyways. So you have to be careful when you're just buying supplements on Amazon. So like you said, if it's been prescribed by your doctor, I actually do take vitamin D because I always run low, and my neurologist for my MS, low vitamin D is shown to be have a causation with MS. So I do take vitamin D. Yeah, you do have to be really careful.
So I have a couple questions about things you said. Okay, about the processed meats. What if the meat package says no nitrates and all that? Does that mean it's healthy and then it doesn't count as like processed because it's the chemicals in the process? So if it's nitrate free, then can we eat it? So my second question is, what about this big push for protein? And so it's like, I can't possibly eat 130 grams of protein a day. I mean, I guess I could, but it's really hard. So I do a protein shake.
So for the processed meats, it doesn't matter if it says like, nitrate free, natural, maybe lower sodium would be a better choice, but it's really how those meats are processed, the high heat, that can create cancerous byproducts. So really it's those pre-cooked meats is what we want to stay away from. We really want to do more of the raw meats. Now I do understand the bacon is in that category of a processed meat. A lot of the sodium and things that are added to that because it's a raw meat. People are like, well, wait a minute, can I just do the bacon? Why is that a processed meat? Really, those ones that can be in your fridge for a couple weeks and you don't have to throw them out. There is sodium. There is ways that they've been cooked and preserved that's going to increase your risk for colon cancer. So it's really best just go to the raw meat section, cook your meats, use those. You can make like a popular one would be like your breakfast sausages. Those are pre-cooked, right? So just buy the raw sausage meat. There's, simple recipes out there. This is something that, I share like on my social media and stuff, just cooking your meats fresh and having those because you're controlling the way that those meats have been cooked. When they're cooked at high levels, high temperatures, that's where the increased risk for colon cancer comes from.
So it's not the nitrate. So to me, that was cancer free if it says no nitrates. That's not the same. Okay.
And
So
yeah, unfortunately not. The American
Okay.
Institute for Cancer Research mentioned that, like, hey, that's a common question. Is it nitrate free? Is it better now? And unfortunately, no, they're still classifying that as a processed meat. And to please avoid as much as you can and just do the fresh meat. So unfortunately, no, that would be still do not have.
Well, fried potatoes also, I think, are supposed to be one of the worst things ever for you, right?
What are?
fried potatoes, like
Yeah,
French
French
fries.
fries.
Yeah, no, so that's another myth. That's a huge myth too. No, so the carcinogenic byproduct comes from animal proteins. It will not come from like veggies. So if you were to burn your veggies or cook them at high temperatures, those things are not gonna they won't result in that. The fried potatoes, I mean, we need to look at how much oil you're having,
Right.
what type, that. But no, fried potatoes, French fries are not increasing risk for cancer. And again, it will come down to the dose. Then maybe they're saying something like times 100,000 of that dose may increase risk of cancer, but it's never going to be that. And it's probably from a lab study or, a mouse study or something like that. So no, those are not increasing your cancer risk. If you have a lot of fried foods, you may not feel your best, but those aren't increasing your cancer risk.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, and then the protein powder. So
Yeah,
no,
protein powders and protein bars and things that people eat because they do say, and especially like I'm sure for women that have gone through cancer treatment and may not have the best appetite, and so they probably do need protein for the building blocks. Like, what do you say about those?
Yeah, so protein powders is really just going to be the protein in it, whether it's whey. I always recommend like whey, pea, or soy protein isolate. They're all going to be pretty good, but that's really what it is. It's just that powder is going to be that protein component. So it's going to be safe. You're going to be fine. When then putting it into bars and things like that, completely fine. You just kind of have to look at overall. Like let's say you are struggling to get enough protein and you're malnourished during cancer treatment, or you're struggling to get enough protein because you're vegan, or you're just a woman who is not getting in that much protein. And if you get a protein shake in, you're going to now hit that mark. That's completely safe and completely fine. Now, if you're just having protein powders throughout the day, okay, well, maybe you're not going to be satisfied. There's probably not enough fiber in there. Why are we having so many shakes throughout the day? But having a protein beverage or protein powder or protein bar is completely safe. But you do have to think about the balance in the day. A protein bar is going to be a good snack. But if you're trying to replace your meal with a protein bar, you're not going to be satisfied. If you have, certain nutrition goals, a protein bar as a meal is not going to help you there. But if you have maybe like a shake in the morning because it's easy and flexible, and you have your protein powder, and then you have like your milk, dairy is fine, by the way, but you can have your dairy in there, and then now you have some fruits and some veggies and some flax and some yogurt and some protein powder. Well, that's now really a well balanced smoothie, and that could be considered for a meal, which I may not even recommend all the time, just because at meal times there's that satisfaction of chewing and different crunch and different flavors. But so it's kind of how you use those protein powders, but they are safe, and a protein bar can be great, but I'd probably pair it with fruit, or just make sure to have it as a snack. They're not going to increase your cancer risk. I think what's important with the protein powders is, okay, what are they fortified with a lot of other nutrients, making sure those nutrients are below 200% daily value, which they usually should be. Trying to buy just that protein powder. Don't make the protein powder try to serve anything else. Just get it for the protein. And it's actually can be really beneficial for a lot of people.
if someone has a strong family history of cancer, how much power is in nutrition and physical activity to lower their chance of getting it?
It is so powerful. It is just as powerful as someone trying to reduce risk of recurrence. It's equally powerful. Like I am talking so powerful. A lot of times women will be worried if they have the BRCA gene. They're like, okay, I'm worse off now. Nicole, what do I need to do that's extra? You don't need to do extra. You have the information. You have an increased family history. You have the BRCA gene, but we're still going to do the same exact things for lowering risk of breast cancer. That's going to be exercise, removing alcohol, increasing fiber, lowering our body fat tissue. It's the World Cancer Research Fund talks about this. Whether it's reducing risk of recurrence, family history, or you have like a gene, it's all going to be the same. And it's nothing that you have to do extra, but you really want to lock in on these recommendations, like the 30 grams of fiber a day can reduce your risk. I mean, even up to 50% for certain cancers, not for all of them when it comes to exercise. So if you want to make sure you're doing everything you can to reduce risk of your, family history or things like that, nutrition, just the same as someone who's had cancer, is reducing risk of recurrence. It will make it'll make a huge impact, up to 50%. It's incredible.
Well, speaking of that, because this is what was so frustrating to me was I have no family history of cancer. I have a great uncle that had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I have about a 24% body fat. I've never drank in my life. Exercise
Good.
6 days a week and did not have BRCA. I mean, I had all the genetic testing and was diagnosed at 44 with DCIS. It was a stage 0. And actually now, 12 years later, there's been a bit of a change in the way that they consider DCIS. It's ductal carcinoma in situ. It basically just means that it's in the breast. I didn't have a lump. I had like a buckshot. And they wanted to, I had a lumpectomy. They wanted to do 33 rounds of radiation. They said no. And they also wanted to put me on 10 years of tamoxifen, which I also did not do. But so, I think like for me, it was like I was already doing all of the right things that you could do and did not have, the gene mutations. So I think, they always just were saying, well, it's just bad luck. You're just the 1 in 8 that just happened to get it. So sometimes I think, and I felt a lot of like, I don't want to say shame, um, like, like my body was betraying me because like I'm doing all the things right.
No. Yeah, I know, Erin. And there's so many of my clients that come to me with the same thing. It's true, it's unlucky, but it's really not your fault. And it's unfortunate because you did all the right things. And I will have clients say that too. Hey, I was vegan, I ran marathons, I never drank, why is this happening to me? So in those instances, you have to remember that, the body is imperfect, right? And certain times cells just don't, repair in the right way and it becomes cancer. And so really what I tell cancer survivors like you who've reduced risk, 12 years now, right? Since your diagnosis, so you're
Right.
doing amazing, Erin. And other people who've been diagnosed and they do feel betrayed, like, hey, I gave you an alcohol-free body. What the heck? Why did you do this to me? Is that, when it comes to biology, there's only so much that we can do to make those nutrition and lifestyle changes to give yourself the best chance for your body to support what it needs to do to reduce risk of cancer or recurrence. Ultimately a cancer cell, what happens is it's damaged DNA along the line somewhere, right? And it just doesn't repair. It goes through certain steps. If you look at like the cancer, you know, creation, a damaged cell, and then it doesn't repair. The way it will usually repair is lowering body fat tissue, exercising, fruits and veggies. Those are really the little guys that come in and repair that damaged DNA. And that's really the most that you can do. And it can be hard because you want the guarantee or you want to know, hey, where did this come from? Can someone please pinpoint to me where this, and no one can pinpoint that, including the doctor. And so, the body's not going to be perfect, but do everything that you have the power and control to reduce risk of recurrence and understand that it's not your fault. The shame, what did I do wrong? Or people trying to blame you or tell you why you got it. And it really truly is unlucky, which isn't always a satisfying answer, but knowing that reducing risk of recurrence for anyone, whether you've had cancer, you just finished treatment or you finished treatment 12 years ago, nutrition lifestyle will still support you on not getting a recurrence. And that is what you have control over. And then of course, scans too. Checking in with your doctor is just going to be critical to catching anything early.
Yeah, and so we know that you were talking about body fat in women. Excess body fat does increase the risk of hormone sensitive cancers. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that women make when they are trying to lose weight after cancer? What would you say are the don't do's?
Yeah. So the extremes, you have to think about, okay, I want to lose weight, and you don't have to have zero body fat. That's not, you don't have to do that at all, but lowering the body fat will help is just the extremes. So even just a small percentage of lowering your body fat can reduce your risk of recurrence. So let's say you have a weight loss goal of 20, 30, 40 pounds, but you've lost 2, 3, 4, 5. You are already reducing your risk of recurrence. So you don't have to get to that goal to reduce your risk of recurrence. So any lowering body fat tissue. Also keep in mind, you may be exercising more. So your weight may not have changed, but you're lowering your body fat tissue, increasing your muscle. You're also reducing your risk of recurrence. So it's not just like, you have to look at all the wins across, like along the way of weight loss. A lot of women are like, okay, I need to lose 30 pounds and I need to lose it now and I'm going to starve. Okay, well, that's not going to take you to 70 or 80 years old. You have to really change the way that your lifestyle is. So that probably is not going to be removing all sugar forever. Okay. That is not going to be starving. That's not going to be keto or carnivore. It's going to be having more plant foods, enough protein. You don't have to go crazy. 1 gram per kilogram is fine for protein per day for women. You don't have to do this 150, having the fiber, having more movement, hydrating, sleeping, getting back to these basics, getting into a groove of that and understanding that weight loss takes time. So for anyone and women, 2 pounds of weight loss a week is actually a lot. It is a lot. So a half pound to 1 pound is amazing, even a half pound. So knowing that it takes time, when you see all your friends around you starving or doing whatever to lose weight really fast, that's not sustainable for several decades, which is what we're looking at in the future to reduce risk of recurrence, right? So it takes time, it's lifestyle habits, and it's also food awareness. So a big thing is the calorie counting. People will say, well, it takes too much time, or I'm embarrassed, and my sweet clients, they won't even want to tell me, like, I don't want to tell you, like, we all love to eat and we all, we're all eating a lot of calories. So we need to look at calories and nutrition labels as just information. Like, oh, I really want dessert. This dessert is 800 calories. This dessert is 300 calories. You know what I mean? And understanding that food awareness, or like, hey, this food has no fiber, but this food has more fiber. just understanding what you're eating so you can create a calorie deficit without any of that shame. Like you just need to be more aware of what you're eating and you need to be consistent with it for a while. And I think that's hard. I mean, you want to lose weight yesterday, not 6 months from now, but you have to think about, okay, I want lifelong weight loss for good. Let me just take this slow step by step, lose that half pound a week, change my lifestyle, get to that goal, and then you can stay there.
What specific cancers other than breast cancer are related to excess weight?
It'd be the hormone sensitive cancers. So, I mean, because basically the estrogen is coming from that fat tissue. So anything that's going to be hormone related for estrogen, it's not going to be, I mean, it could be for so many different ones though as well. So like the 13 from the World Cancer Research Fund, there's like the colon cancer on there, the breast cancer. I'd have to really look at, I could even get the list for you guys to post underneath, just those 13 from the World Cancer Research Fund. But a lot of times they just focus on like, hey, there's hormone sensitive. So if you've had a hormone sensitive cancer, it's going to be important to bring it down. The one little tricky part though is that, some estrogen can be protective too, so it's hard. World Cancer Research Fund talks about that. Like, hey, having a little bit extra body fat tissue, a little estrogen can, help support reduce risk of this cancer. But what they've decided is, okay, maybe estrogen can be protective for maybe a couple cancers. We know that high fat tissue estrogen can increase risk of 13 cancers. So we're going to go ahead and be consistent with the recommendation is lowering your body fat tissue. But I have even, oncologists and things have mentioned that too as well. It's like, okay, there is just a small bit of protection when you have a little bit more fat tissue on your body. But the World Cancer Research Fund said, hey, we know that, but we're still going to say lower the body fat tissue overall to reduce your risk of recurrence and cancer's best.
So maybe then, like, being a normal weight or just a healthy weight, you are going to have some body fat. So you're not saying like being completely lean and ripped and all that. Like
Mhm.
some body fat is
No.
protective.
Well, you need body fat for hormone synthesis,
Yep.
and so you have to, I mean, like when women especially get too low body fat, if we're still menstruating, we'll lose menstruation. I mean, it has so many benefits. You want some for sure. Percent. What would you say? Is there a percentage that people should aim for?
There's not really a particular percentage. I think it's just kind of like, what's your body made up of? I think it's building muscle and in the way that works for you. I'm not saying everyone has to body build, okay? But like
Right.
being active, being limber, whether it's Pilates, swimming, lifting, bike riding, equestrian, things like that. And like you said, you have to have some body fat tissue. You don't have enough, now you don't have your period. If you're eating too little and you're just so thin, now you're not getting enough nutrients. Now you're hurting your bones. So it's not about being body, percent, fat free as a woman or a man. It's not that. But, if you have no muscle, you don't work out, and you have mostly body fat tissue, no matter what your weight is, well, we need to get that muscle up. We need to get moving. So if the percentage, it's hard to really say without like a specific scan. Everyone's a little bit different. But it's okay, what's your ratio of fat tissue to muscle tissue? Are you thin but no muscle and all fat? That's still not, thin by maybe, it's hard to even say BMI because it's not even taking in consideration everything that's going on with your body. But if you have only fat and no muscle, that's a problem. But if you have muscle and fat, that's going to be a lot more beneficial for you to reduce risk.
So what would you say are the top 3 habits that truly reduce cancer risks in women in midlife?
Yeah. So fiber, number one, is having enough fiber. Are you getting 30 grams of fiber a day from plant foods? So that's number one. It's going to
That
reduce your
is
risk of breast and
challenging.
colon cancer.
It's not easy.
It can be. Yeah.
I eat a
So
lot of
remember, 1 cup of
vegetables, and I
raspberries.
feel like a cup of like a broccoli is not that much.
Yeah, so you want to look for those foods that are higher in fiber. A cup of raspberries is 8 grams of fiber. Certain breads, one slice is 5 grams of fiber. You want to look at those nutrition labels. Choose, and then leafy greens can be very good for fiber. Trying to use whole grains for breads, English muffins, bagels, pasta, rice. Yeah, you just got to really be attentive to that. Nuts are going to be really good for fiber. Pick your favorite fruits or veggies. Also, if you like fruit more, just do more fruit. If you like veggies more, just do more veggies. So one's not better than the other. A lot of people will think that fruits are bad or high in sugar. That's not true. So yeah, it can be. Typically, most Americans get about 15 grams of fiber a day. So
What
Elizabeth,
about
you'd be right.
supplements for fiber? What do you feel about those?
So, I mean, the World Cancer Research Fund says, hey, dietary fiber, and they do understand that some of those fiber sources can come from plant foods, but really it's recommended just to get it from the fruits and veggies and to not supplement with any powders or things like that. That's more for like regulating constipation or diarrhea. I do understand they're plant-based, but really just doing the whole foods, the fruits, so your whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, fruits, and veggies is really what's encouraged and recommended the most to hit that 30 grams a day. And you'd want to look at labels because one whole grain bread will have 2 grams of fiber and another whole grain bread will have 5 grams of fiber a slice. And those small shifts each day, that's what's going to help you hit that mark. So that's going to be huge for our women. Also, it's going to support the way it reduces risk of breast cancer is high fiber diets support weight loss, and weight loss associated with reducing risk of breast cancer. So that's where that, and then fiber is literally for colon cancer, reducing colon cancer. That's because it's moving stool along, it's keeping the colon clear. So that's why it's reducing risk of those 2 specific cancers. The next thing would be exercise and movement. Absolutely. That would be another thing. So the high fiber, the exercise and movement is huge. And then, I mean, the third one, gosh, there's so many things that you can do. Reducing or omitting the alcohol, that can absolutely impact so many other things too. So if you're reducing alcohol, now you won't have the ethanol exposure to increase risk of cancer, but you may be sleeping better, which I mean, you will be. So now you're balancing your hunger satiety hormones. So you can eat better throughout the day. If you're not drinking alcohol, you have more energy to exercise. So there's a lot of indirect things. So I'd probably say number 3 would be removing or taking out alcohol because it's going to indirectly, and it's going to help with hair growth, skin, nails, which is a huge thing for cancer survivors recovering from treatments. So those would be my top 3.
Yeah, alcohol, it's just so funny to me because I'm not a drinker and never have been that I'm like, I get kind of a lot of flack sometimes from friends that do
I
drink.
bet, Erin.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They can't believe I don't. And when I go to a party and, they're like, oh, what can I get you to drink? I'm like, oh, I'll have a water. And, if I say, well, I don't drink, a lot of times people think I'm like in recovery, which
I
is
know.
fine. I'm not in recovery. I've been sober my whole life because I'm like, I think just from a very young age, I was like, alcohol has no known benefits and all of it is detrimental. It used to bug me, the mommy wine like culture when my kids were little. I'm just like, I think also just, Elizabeth knows this and our listeners know I had heart surgery at 6 because I was born with a congenital heart defect.
Oh,
So, and then I have a hypertensive crisis at 13 because I have, anyways, a weird anomaly with my right kidney.
yeah.
So I always was like, when I got to the age I could drink, I was like, I already got some, a defunct, kidney and heart. So I was like, I'm not going to damage my brain. I always, because they say alcohol kills brain cells. And I bet
Hmm.
bazillion of them. But so what do you say to your clients who like want to have, a glass of wine or they're in that mommy wine, but they're also fighting cancer? Like, how do you reconcile that alcohol has no benefit for them? I mean, other than the social lubricant.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not even good either, right? If we shouldn't want to have a social lubricant, right? We'd want to be around places that are comfy. So typically it could be a little challenging. Sometimes it'll be new friends, new things to do. So like let's say you have goals to reduce risk of not to not drink, but all your friends drink. It can be challenging. Those same friends, maybe you can make different dates like breakfast and coffee dates, Pilates dates, walk dates, things like that. That typically what ends up happening is they get kind of made fun of or judged. And again, I don't like that. I think friends that are really our friends would never judge us. So I just tell my clients like, get some new friends. That's crazy. But if not that, people will eventually get used to it. It's not a big deal. As they transition to not drinking alcohol, maybe they have to explain it a few times, but then eventually people move on. It's very weird and inappropriate that people want to make you drink alcohol, but they won't do it about anything else, right? There was that comedian who made that thing about, like what if people talked about how they have to eat mayonnaise the way they make people feel like they have to eat or drink alcohol. So if it's very rare once in a while, I mean, truly the recommendations are zero. Truly with the World Cancer Research Fund, it says if you have any, you're increasing your cancer risk, right? But of course, no one's living a perfect life. No one has a perfect body. There's never a perfect scenario. So, once in a while, probably won't do any damage, but that's not what the studies say. So I can't be like, well, one is fine. You know what I mean? Like the studies say none. So I think that I do want to say that there are so many people out there that actually don't drink alcohol and they don't really think about it when having fun. And you just really need to go find those people, and you absolutely can, because you're working on your health, which is so special, and you deserve to have friends and people supporting you at that same level.
Yeah, and I think it's so great that you said that it's really rude to be like encouraging someone to drink when they're making a choice not to.
Yeah,
If
it's annoying.
yeah, if you're listening to this and you have on occasion been that person, maybe it's time that you start recognizing that, because I think I can see how good people do that with well-intended people, do that thinking that, oh, it's just a party, like it's fine.
Loosen up.
Yeah, like they're encouraging them to have fun, but really it is rude and inconsiderate, and you're not being a good friend. So try to catch it before you do that next time. So, Nicole, well, I've loved having you on. You have such great information. I know you have a one on one coaching program. Can you tell our listeners,
Mhm.
like, what exactly does that look like? Is it virtual? Is it if they're not in person with you? How does that work?
Yeah, amazing. So my one-on-one coaching program is all virtual. I help cancer survivors or women just wanting to reduce risk of, cancer. Maybe it's a family history. It's virtual. It's with me. You work with me for 90 days at a time. Inside one-on-one coaching, it's very customized and personalized and meeting you where you're at. So my one-on-one coaching program looks at 5 pillars. I have what's called my NED method. It's 5 pillars looking at your nutrition, your exercise and movement, your hydration, your sleep, and then lowering stress and self care. We look at all 5 of those as your dietitian. I'm looking at all of those because all of those together will help you to really be your healthiest self, but also reduce risk of cancer and recurrence. If you're, really stressed, it's going to be harder to eat well. If you're not sleeping, the exercise is going to be thrown off. So we look at all those 5 areas to really helping you reduce your risk of recurrence, not miss anything that's out there, and really just making it simpler for you to reduce risk of cancer because there's so much misinformation and it's wasting your money, your time, your sleep. I have clients who are like, I can't even go out to eat at a restaurant because I'm so scared the menu has something that's going to cause my cancer. And that's the biggest thing my clients walk away with is that they know what's going to increase their cancer risk and what's not. And they let everything else go so they can get back to like enjoying food and enjoying their life in a confident way. So, yeah, I would just send me an email or go over to my social media and you can contact me and we can talk about if it's a good fit. But you will reach your goals. And like what you mentioned in the beginning, Elizabeth, 80% of my clients do reach clear scans and stay there, which is a huge goal of cancer survivors, obviously. So they have a lot of success in my program and they have a lot of fun. And the best thing is they just release the fear around, hey, am I missing anything? Because they're not.
Well, I'll link to all of your socials and your email so that our listeners can find you.
And her website.
Yeah, your website. And this is just such great information. Like I said, as a, 12-year cancer survivor or cancer thriver. I don't know. It sounds like I was in a battle,
Well, you did good, Anne.
Yeah, but I prefer to think of myself as kind of more like a warrior. I don't know.
Whatever you think is awesome. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that our listeners are going to get so much information. And now I won't give my mom a hard time about drinking well, she used to drink Tab, but now
Mhm.
she drinks Diet Coke. And I'm always just like, that's just bad for you.
And it's okay. She's good.
Yeah, now,
Yeah.
well, she's 83 and doesn't take a single medication. So honestly, I can't really pick at her.
Yeah, she's doing good then. Yeah, the Diet Coke's totally fine. Just bring it back. And the Pepsi Zero, I have that too, Elizabeth. So I'm with you.
Awesome. And I can tell you, if you guys are listening, Nicole, if you're not, you can watch our full episodes on YouTube, but Nicole has the warmest disposition. So if you are wanting some support, she really is.
Mhm.
And you've got to follow her social media because she has really quick, informative videos. She's just a great wealth of knowledge. So I just feel honored that you agreed to come on today. And
Yeah.
we're so happy.
Yeah. Make sure that you
Yeah.
hit the follow button on the podcast so that you are notified every time we release an episode.
And follow us on Instagram,
Thank you
TikTok,
so much for having me.
and YouTube. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.
This has been a production of Estrogen Dropouts, LLC.